Some chapters in the Bible feel like a quiet conversation. Others feel like a thunderclap. Hebrews 11 is both. It's a chapter that doesn't just tell stories. It reminds us of them. It gathers people from across centuries, across deserts, across battles and blessings and heartbreak, and places them side by side like portraits in a long hallway. Some people call it the Faith Hall of Fame, but really, it's a story about ordinary people who trusted God in extraordinary ways. And the reason this chapter matters so much is simple. It tells us we are part of the same story. Before we talk about the heroes, we need to understand the audience. Hebrews wasn't written to people who were doing great. It was written to people who were exhausted, discouraged, and wondering if following Jesus was worth it. They were facing pressure, fear, uncertainty. Some had lost homes. Some had lost friends. Some were thinking about giving up. And into that heaviness comes Hebrews 11. Not as a lecture, not as a guilt trip, but as a reminder. You're not the first to walk through something hard. And you're not walking alone. The chapter begins with a sentence that feels like a deep breath. Faith is confidence in what we hope for. Faith is assurance about what we do not see. It's the feeling of stepping forward even when the path isn't fully lit. It's trusting that the next step will matter, even if you don't know where it leads. And then the chapter does something beautiful. It starts telling stories. The first names feel ancient, almost distant. Abel, whose offering came from a sincere heart. Enoch, who walked with God so closely he didn't experience death. Noah, who built a massive boat on dry land because he trusted a warning no one else believed. These aren't superheroes. They're people who listened when God spoke, even when it didn't make sense. And that is the quiet theme of Hebrews 11. Faith often looks strange before it looks wise. Then the chapter slows down around Abraham and Sarah, and for good reason. Their story is one of waiting, years of waiting, decades of waiting, waiting for a child, waiting for a promise, waiting for a future they couldn't see. They left their home without knowing where they were going. They believed God would give them a family, even when their bodies said otherwise. And Hebrews 11 honors that. Not because they were perfect, they weren't, but because they kept walking. Sometimes faith isn't loud. Sometimes it's just putting one foot in front of the other. Then comes Moses, raised in a palace, surrounded by luxury, trained in power. But Hebrews 11 says something striking. He chose to be identified with his people rather than enjoy the temporary pleasures of Egypt. He walked away from comfort to step into calling. He faced Pharaoh. He led a nation. He crossed a sea with walls of water on both sides. But the chapter doesn't praise his leadership. It praises his faith, the quiet trust behind every bold step. One of the most surprising names in the chapter is Rahab, a woman with a complicated past. A woman living in a city destined for destruction. A woman who made one courageous choice. She believed God was doing something new. She protected the Israelite spies. She risked everything. And Hebrews 11 remembers her, not for her past, but for her faith. It's a reminder that faith can rise in the most unexpected places. After Rahab, the chapter picks up speed, almost breathless. Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, the prophets. Some conquered kingdoms. Some shut the mouths of lions. Some escaped the sword. Some endured suffering. The writer piles story upon story, almost as if saying, there isn't enough time to tell you everything. And that's the point. Faith didn't belong to one generation. It didn't belong to one type of person. It didn't belong to the perfect. It belonged to anyone who trusted God enough to take the next step. Then Hebrews 11 does something honest, painfully honest. It talks about people who didn't see the miracle, people who suffered, people who were mistreated, people who held on to faith even when the outcome wasn't what they hoped for. And the chapter honors them just as much as the ones who saw victories. Because faith isn't measured by results. It's measured by trust. So why is Hebrews 11 so important? Because it reminds us that faith is a long story, and we're part of it. It reminds us that the people we admire in Scripture weren't flawless. They were human. They doubted. They struggled. They waited. They wondered. But they kept going. And the writer of Hebrews is gently telling us, if they could walk by faith, so can you. Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting God with the questions. It's about believing that your story matters, even when you can't see the ending yet. Hebrews 11 ends with a surprising idea. All these people lived by faith, but they didn't receive the fullness of what was promised. Not because God failed them, but because the story wasn't finished yet. And it still isn't. We read part of the same journey, the same long line of people who trust God in the middle of uncertainty, who take steps without seeing the whole path, who believe that hope is worth holding on to. Hebrews 11 isn't just a chapter. It's an invitation. An invitation to remember. An invitation to keep going. An invitation to believe that faith, even small, quiet, trembling faith, can shape a life. And maybe that's why this chapter still speaks so loudly today, because it reminds us that faith isn't about being fearless. It's about moving forward even when you're not.